Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video we'll be concentrating on the themes and ideas as conveyed by Lord Byron in his poem When We Two Parted. So, Lord Byron, or George Gordon, is as famous for his scandalous relationships and decadent lifestyle as he is his romantic poetry. He was once labelled as mad, bad and dangerous to know, and his reputation made him both infamous and celebrated in his lifetime. So the specifics of this poem are allegedly around a specific affair he had. So around 1813, Byron had an affair with a married woman named Lady Frances Wedderburn Webster. Their affair came to an end, very quietly, perhaps to avoid being found out, and it was not public knowledge at all. In 1816, however, it became very public knowledge that Lady Webster was then having an affair with the Duke of Wellington. It's thought that upon hearing of that news, that his former lover, Byron, penned the poem When We Two Parted, and then dated it back to stop any speculation about who he was writing about and stop any further scandal for her. So let's consider first, before we delve deeper into the poem itself, what does the title tell us? When We Two Parted. Instantly it's quite evocative. It's our speaker recollecting a painful end of a relationship. The speaker is sharing also their thoughts very directly, it would seem, to their ex-lover. And perhaps this poem was a way for Byron himself to navigate his frustrations of what maybe felt to him like a betrayal of their love. When we two parted, in silence and tears, half broken-hearted, to sever for years, pale grew thy cheek, and cold, colder thy kiss, truly that hour foretold sorrow to this. The dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow, it felt like the warning of what I feel now. Thy vows are all broken, and light is thy fame. I hear thy name spoken, and share in its shame. They name thee before me, a knell to mine ear, a shudder comes o'er me. Why wert thou so dear? They know not I knew thee. Who knew thee too well? Long, long shall I rue thee, too deeply to tell. In secret we met, in silence I grieve, that thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. If I should meet thee after long years, how should I greet thee? With silence and tears. The thing we're struck with instantly in the first stanza is that this memory seems intentionally vague. The readers at the time would be thinking, who is this to? The pronoun in the opening line and the title, When We Two Parted, signals that it was mutual pain at the relationship ending. And such emotive language in silence and tears heightens the unspeakable suffering of this loss, as he recalls it. There are huge numbers of hints here of secrets and forbidden love, with silence, broken-heartedness, and the traumatic connotations in line 4 of sever. That verb is heart-wrenching. It's interesting that we see half broken-hearted in line 3. Was only one of them truly sad about them parting? Is this a revelation that we're meant to take away? If not, why is it half broken-hearted? And as this stanza unfolds, the semantic field of coldness and death imagery, pale grew thy cheek and cold, colder, suggests emotional detachment and even heartlessness on the part of his former lover. The speaker seems to be accentuating, maybe without meaning to, their resentment of their former lover. And it would seem as if the cold and colder repetition heightens the hurt to his pride. It's as if all warmth and passion that they had is dead now. It's interesting at this point to bring in Byron using accentual verse, because that means in this case that every line has specific numbers of beats, but also, in this case, 2 stressed syllables. So In most lines, like the opening, when we two parted, in silence and tears, those are lines where we understand which syllables are stressed. But here, if we look closely at this stanza, there are two deviations to it. In lines 5 and 7, there's a break to this pattern with 3 stressed syllables. Pale grew thy cheek and cold. Truly that hour foretold. So we've got to consider, why does Byron do this? Perhaps he does this to break up the poem's whole rhythm, and also maybe to symbolically dismantle their already broken relationship. It seems at points in this stanza the speaker is losing a bit of self-control, and it's shown in the change in the rhythm. The final 2 lines of this specific stanza, truly that hour foretold, sorrow to this, connect through the enjambment that they have. The remembrance of the past is bringing for him fresh feelings of hurt now as he retells this moment of sadness. Stanza 2 takes us right back to that morning, and pathetic fallacy heightens the emotional cool with the chill. And there's dew. It makes it seem harsh, abrupt, a revelation that hurt. It could also suggest, by the fact it's morning, that they may have been together and slept together the night before. The shift, though, from the past reflection in the openings of this poem to the present, as found in lines 3 and 4 of this stanza, it felt like the warning of what I feel now. And the use of the full stop at the end of line 4 is adding absolute finality and urgency to the tone of this whole stanza. It's interesting that, unlike in a sonnet or a Shakespearean sonnet, this poem continues to have alternating lines of rhymes, as if these two lovers are close, but never close enough for their paths to fall together and be fated to stay together. Another thing to note is that it says, thy vows are all broken. So vows are, in this case, we would associate with wedding vows, but we might think that's contradictory if it was an affair, but actually maybe he's emphasising here the power of undying love, and how actually they had made a vow to love in their heart forever what they had. And now it feels like a genuine betrayal to hear this revelation of her finding somebody else. It's interesting, and light is thy fame. Light is synonymous here with scandal, which now follows this lover wherever she goes. But also light is implied as weakness here. Another thing I notice with this stanza is the importance of sibilants. I hear the names spoken and share in its shame. Spoken, share and shame. They create this awkward whispering effect of overhearing the rumours that he has heard of his ex-lover. There's a secretive atmosphere that's embedded here, and the deliberate vagueness in our opening with the word silence definitely doesn't change how broken-hearted he feels. Stanza 3 continues this avalanche of compounded pain that our speaker is going through at hearing her name. And the metaphor of a knell, that's a bell that's often sounded at a funeral or when somebody has died to ring out the suffering. It heightens how any mention of her means a little part of him dies. It hurts him. But more than anything, it's onomatopoeic when it says, a shudder comes over me. It mirrors again this heartlessness of this femme fatale, this woman who in the past and the present continues to haunt him. It's interesting, the rhetorical question in line 4 of this stanza, why wert thou so dear? It's written almost crudely. Is this disappointment at his feelings? Or is our speaker completely in denial? Were you ever dear to me? The repetition of no and new is interesting in this stanza. They know not I knew thee, who knew thee too well. There's almost a religious sense of knowing, and that's often associated with a sexual relationship. These are his silent frustrations seeping out onto the page. It's as if others don't know what he knows of the relationship they had, and he just wishes he could share it. Long, long shall I rue thee. Rue is to regret something, and it's melancholy for him ever being with her now. I definitely get the impression that our speaker is finding it hard to distance himself from a connection with this former lover. If I were to summarise our first three stanzas, they are preoccupied with the past and reliving that time. As we fast forward to the final stanza, it focuses on now what would happen were they to see each other again. And it's interesting to note the contrast between the pronoun in the first line of this final stanza. In secret we met, which is in the past tense, we met. Yet I is in the present tense. I grieve. He's still lingering to those feelings. It's ongoing suffering. Yet the bitterness is shining through with quite an aggressive tone here. Thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. It signals how much it hurts our speaker that she's moved on and forgot what they had. Our speaker definitely is ruminating here, and we even get this with a subjunctive mood of if I should meet thee. He's contemplating what he would do if they met again in precise detail. Yet the thought of it, how should I greet thee? And then there's a pause. That rhetorical question definitely adds to the cyclical mood of this poem. It adds to us that our speaker feels that the situation is absolutely futile and he's totally locked in his pain alone. The feelings of self-pity and disappointment, rejection and anger definitely remain, because his decision is that it would be with silence and tears once more. Ultimately, in this poem, Byron presents the truth that whilst relationships may end, it is difficult to get closure on our emotions. The speaker's bitterness comes from signs that surrounded him that the relationship was doomed. Foretold, warning, knell, and deceive, and that littering of bitterness is what seeps through and can be heard from any reader. More than anything, my takeaway images are that secrecy and silence, they haunt our speaker and fuel his struggle to get closure. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?